Tuesday's Rebels here, and we are going to tell you about some of our embarrassing fangirl moments, because writers geek out over other writers. Absolutely.
10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
My very first fangirl moment, the very first famous author I met was Roger Zelazny, who's one of the classic old-time science fiction fantasy writers. And he's done a lot of amazing things, but I knew him from the unicorn stories that he did in various anthologies, because I was, which will surprise nobody who knows me, a horsey girl, unicorn girl growing up. I had unicorn posters all over my room. And I met him at a conference when I was still in college, and I went up to him with a book to sign, all excited, and I got up to him and I dropped my pen and I dropped my book, and I just made a burbling fool out of myself. So all of those heroines that you see in the novels that get all dropsy and excited and everybody's like, oh my goodness, nobody can be that clumsy and live, I can be.
Okay, so one of the first authors that I fangirled over was Dennis Lehane. He lives down here in Florida part-time, as far as I know, and he goes to a writers' conference once a year here at Eckerd College. He co-runs it with some other authors and people at the college, and at night they offer these free readings. And so usually once a year I will travel down to see the authors read and to kind of, get a sense of the conference, since I can't usually afford it. It's fairly expensive. So I had gone down to this conference with a friend of mine, and we were listening to him read, and he was so good and like really brilliant. And, it was so funny because once you hear an author read, you can really hear their voice when you're reading the writing from then on. And he's one of those that has sort of authentic voice that matches what he writes. But anyway, we were in line getting his signature in our books, and when we got up to his table to talk to him, I made the weirdest comment. I think I was so nervous because it was Dennis Lehane, and I was a huge fan. And I said something about being a desperate housewife. So basically, he thought I was trying to pick him up. And I just meant desperate to get out of the house to do writing activities. But the way it came out was so wrong. And so one of my first fangirl experiences was a really, really embarrassing one, because I basically tried to hit on him. And that was not my intention, but probably that's how he remembers it. If he remembers it at all. I know he meets a lot of people, but I can just remember leaving the table like a nervous wreck and beet red, because I realized, oh my gosh, I just acted like I was hitting on him, and he's probably like, who is this girl who's trying to hit on me? I'm married, I have a kid. And that's not at all what I was trying to do. It came out all wrong. But that's me. Usually when I meet an author, I am so completely in awe that I fumble my words and I freak out.
My next fangirl moment happened at New York is Book Country, which was a book fair that used to happen in New York City every year, and they would close down a part of Fifth Avenue. It was a big, amazing event. Westlake is one of my favorite writers. He writes these wonderful, funny mysteries, and Spy in the Ointment is probably one of my favorite novels of all times. I love, love, love his sense of humor. And I went up, I was standing in line to get his signature. I had a stack of about 6 books, and I was so excited. And just as I get to the front, I trip over an air molecule. You'll notice a theme to my stories. I trip over this random air molecule, and all of my books just spill all over the ground. And Donald Westlake, without missing a beat, says, I always considered myself light reading. And if I didn't love him before, I certainly did then. And he is, to this day, one of my favorite writers. And unfortunately, both he and Roger Zelazny have passed. And I think the world is just poorer for it.
So the second author I have fangirled over several times, and majorly actually, because I think she's awesome, is Libba Bray. And most of that is because I love her writing, but also it's because I think she's such a cool person. And anybody who's seen her live knows this. I mean, she's really entertaining, she's really funny, and she's just really personable too. So I have not met her once where she wasn't really, really nice. And, nice to everyone she meets. It was great to meet her. And so the first time I met her, I was not published. I was writing. I was kind of hopeful. I had gated in the revision stage at that time, and it was called The Silo. And I was 39. I'm going to out my age. And she had told the story during her presentation about being 39 when she got published. So when I met her, I went up to her table and was kind of like, could you rub off your good luck on me since you were 39 and I'm 39 now? And maybe if you sort of sprinkle your juju on me, I'll be able to get published too. And she sort of laughed, and she, put in my book, you're going to make it, or this is the year. And, sure enough, about 7 months later, I did get an agent and I did get a book offer. And so it did happen that way. And I remember actually writing a whole blog post about how she has the good juju, and she was kind enough to answer me back, which was huge.
My final fangirl moment, I've been debating how to tell you this without spoilers, because it really is such a good story that it has to be told. At LunaCon a few years ago, which is a convention that still happens in Rye, New York every year, I got to meet Melanie Ron. And I was new in the business. I was maybe 22 years old or something like that. So I didn't really have a name yet, but I, was in the business, and I knew I was going to geek out over her. And I didn't want her to remember the girl that couldn't form sentences. So when I got up to meet her at her signing table, I turned my badge backwards, and I went up to her and I got her to sign the book. And as I did, I said, and I haven't read this other book yet, because I understand that so-and-so dies in it, and I love him, and I just can't read it yet, because as long as I don't read it, he's not dead. He's still alive for me. And she says, oh, I know. She said, when I wrote that character, when I wrote that scene, she says, my best friend called, and I answered the phone in tears, and I said, I can't talk right now. I've just killed the man I love. And she said, I understand. Call me if you need to talk. And that's how it is for writers. The characters are just so real to us, and we do fall in love with them just like we do with people, because they are people to us. And I just love writers. I love the way their minds work. I love their creativity. And I still, 21 years in the business, get all fangirly inside. But now I keep it inside, and I don't drop my books and pen. And I just burble inside and think, oh my goodness, I can't believe I belong among these Illuminati, and they're amazing. And I hope they never figure out that I'm just me.
So the final author that I've fangirled over is Carrie Ryan, and mainly because when I started to write, she was one of the first authors that I took notice of, that I really liked her style. It's kind of lyrical, and I really like the way that she puts together a story. So I was a huge fan, and once I got agented, I got lucky enough to be invited to a retreat that she was on. And, my book was going to come out and all of those things, but it wasn't out yet. And she was there, and I just remember walking into this retreat house like, holy crap, that's Carrie Ryan. And she wasn't the only one. There were several authors there that I was just totally amazed over. Myra McIntyre, to name a few, Beth Revis. There were so many of them, and I can just remember feeling like overwhelmed, because these were all people that I had looked at for a while, thinking, gosh, I would love to be like them. And then here I was sitting in a room with them. It was just totally surreal. But Carrie was really great, really nice. And I totally was a weirdo when I met her, because I couldn't really get it together. I was kind of shy, and I was trying to be personable and outgoing, but it was hard because I was nervous. And she asked to see something. I think it was like, something to do with my cover so she could see it or whatever. And I couldn't pull it up on my computer. I was a total dork. I could not get there. And it was so funny because she ended up pulling it up. So, there you go. Every time I meet an author I like, I pretty much fumble it, and I look like a crazy person. But that's how it goes. I think when, I'm really into a book or into an author, I'm just as starstruck as anybody else. Okay, Rebels, so that's it for today. We can't wait to talk to you next week. Have a good one. Bye.